What's up, Taiwan? Good evening. I'm Erika Liu with 10 minutes of news from here in Taiwan and around the world. On Monday, Taiwan's Central Epidemic Command Center reported 2 new local cases of COVID-19 and 47 imported ones. Officials say the current level 2 epidemic alert will stay in place until the end of the month. They are also lifting an entry ban on migrant workers from the Philippines and Vietnam starting on February 15th. For now, authorities are ramping up disinfection work as people return to work following the holidays. Louise Watt reports.
People returning to the cities after the Lunar New Year holiday. With the mass movement during this busiest time of year, authorities are trying to stop any potential spread of COVID-19. In Taipei, this means stepping up the disinfection of the city's metro stations as people go back to work.
特别针对人潮比较聚集的这几个重要的一个转运的一个交通要点，包括台北车站、南港车站以及3大的一个客运转运站的部分，进行内部及公众周围的一个加强喷消作业。
Taiwan has a number of COVID hotspots. In the port city of Kaohsiung, one of 4 cases reported on Sunday was a harbour pilot. Authorities are listing the ships he boarded to trace where he may have picked up the virus. Harbour workers are supposed to get tested regularly, but officials say this 40-something harbour pilot repeatedly ignored SMS testing reminders.
他只有经过1次的 PCR 筛检，包含在1月24号的通知，以及1月30号，还有1月29号的简讯通知，这个个案都没有如期的到场检验。
The city's mayor is furious.
就传染病防治法的部分。 高雄市政府会开罚。
Following the New Year break, both Kaohsiung and the northwestern city of Taoyuan are postponing the reopening of kindergartens. In New Taipei City, the mayor is reminding people coming back to get tested if they develop any symptoms. He's also ordered companies to test their staff.
在移动过程当中，是不是有一些潜在的风险？那我们就是需要全面的戒备。所以我今天已经下令。 企业界如果能够快筛，自己快筛。我们的市政府所有的上班地点，明天一定要严格落实。
The Central Epidemic Command Center says things are under control, but it's encouraging people to remain cautious. Chris Ma and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Australia is opening up to the world again. Fully vaccinated tourists will be able to enter the country starting on February 21st. Australia closed its borders in March of 2020 to keep out COVID-19 in the early days of the pandemic. The country even blocked its own citizens from leaving and only granted exemptions to a small number of international visitors. Last November, the country relaxed the restrictions to allow Australian citizens and permanent residents to travel abroad. The latest move, announced on Monday, will pave the way for tourists to return, bringing the nation one step closer to life as normal. The 2022 Winter Olympics are in full swing. Almost 3,000 athletes from 91 countries are competing, including 4 from Taiwan. But it's not all fun and games. A number of countries are holding diplomatic boycotts of the Beijing Games in protest over China's human rights record. Others are staying away due to the pandemic and COVID restrictions. Bing Wang has more.
The 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics opened with a spectacular display of lights and fireworks broadcast globally from an empty stadium. Though COVID safety measures kept people away from the opening ceremony, they came out in droves around the world to protest China's hosting of the Games and the country's poor human rights record.
チベット、南モンゴル、香港、ウイグルで大変な弾圧を受けて毎日たくさんの方が苦しんでいる中での
Olympic athletes and personnel are being kept away from the public to prevent the virus from spreading. Many of them have complained that the protocols are stricter than the Tokyo Summer Olympics last year. But more than 350 people, including dozens of athletes, tested positive upon entering Beijing for the sporting events. Among them, Finland ice hockey player Marko Antila. He's been in quarantine for the last 18 days, unable to compete.
And from medical perspective, we know that a person like this is no longer infectious, no danger to the other team. And these isolation decisions are not based on medicine or science. It's more cultural and political decision.
Athletes and journalists have lodged complaints of poor living conditions at their hotels, such as poor internet connection, bad food, and a lack of training equipment.
We feel here like we are in jail. We can't go out of hotel, police is outside, the big fence is there. I can't feel Olympic spirit. Maybe when everything starts it will be different, but I don't know, it's really weird.
Heightened security, strict COVID-19 protocols, and politics have dominated headlines. Now with the Games underway, China hopes the spotlight will redirect onto the performance of the athletes. Kama Xu and Bing Wang for TaiwanPlus.
This year's Games are not the first to deal with controversy. Ying Kavat takes a look at how people have voiced dissent throughout history by way of an Olympic boycott.
The 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing are officially underway. It's become the first Games in decades to attract boycotts of any kind since the Los Angeles and Seoul Games of the 1980s. The millions of people the Olympics bring together globally mean they've always been a platform for political dissent. We take a look at some of the more controversial games. The 1936 Games in Nazi Germany were held 3 years before World War II broke out. They were the first televised Olympics, giving Hitler a global audience. In the 1976 Montreal Games, Taiwan was barred from using its official name, Republic of China, under pressure from China. Taiwan could have competed under the name Taiwan, but instead the military government pulled Taiwan out 1 day before the event. In 1979, the Nagoya Resolution directed Taiwan to compete as Chinese Taipei, a name it must use to this day. In protest, Taiwan staged a second boycott, this time of the Moscow Games in 1980. In total, 65 countries withdrew, led by the United States, over the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. The 2022 Winter Olympics comes with rising concern over China's slide into authoritarianism. Still, Beijing is the first city ever given the right to host both Summer and Winter Games.
Top Chinese tennis player Peng Shuai has told a French publication she's retiring from the sport. In an interview with L'Equipe, the 36-year-old athlete is quoted as saying that multiple surgeries and her age contributed to her decision. This comes after a social media post by Peng in November accused the former Chinese vice premier Zhang Gaoli of sexual assault, an allegation she later denied. Peng also says that she was not held against her will by the Chinese authorities. Concerns were raised when she disappeared from public view after the post. This led to an international campaign to reveal her whereabouts and calls for her safety. Over the weekend, Peng met with the Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach in Beijing. He said the sexual assault allegations were a personal matter and any investigation must be instigated by Peng. Taiwan's women's football team has lost to Vietnam in the final game of the AFC Asian Cup. This means the squad missed out on a chance to qualify for the FIFA World Cup next year. But as Sandy Chi reports, the team's performance has given the country plenty to cheer for.
Defeated but unbowed. On Sunday, Taiwan missed out on a chance to qualify for next year's FIFA Women's World Cup after a 2-1 loss in the final game of the 2022 Asian Cup. Vietnam opened the scoring in Mumbai with a powerful header from a corner kick, but Taiwan came roaring back as Su Yushen slotted in from a tight angle into the bottom left corner. But it was not to be for Taiwan as Vietnam scored the winner in the 55th minute with a powerful shot from 7 yards. The defeat came as many of Taiwan's most experienced players were sidelined after testing positive for COVID-19. But according to Taiwan's head coach Kazuo Ichigo, it was also an opportunity for younger players to gain some valuable experience. In the final, China beat South Korea, winning the Women's Asian Cup for a record 9th time. Despite the heartbreak, there is still hope for Taiwan's World Cup dream. They now move to a 10-team Interconfederation playoff tournament in 2023. It is a chance to secure one of the final 3 spots for the World Cup, co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand next summer. Rick E. and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. I'm Erika Liu. Finally today, we leave you with images from the largest light display in Europe this year. It's the Copenhagen Light Festival, underway through the end of the month. Remember to download the TaiwanPlus app for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. See you next time. Take care.